Welcome to this deep dive, where we take your sources and unpack the most compelling insights. Today, we're immersing ourselves in a single, really extraordinary personal account from the BBC's WW2 People's War Archive. It's titled Football and Pharaohs by a man named Frederick Hanson.
A great title, isn't it? Really evocative.
It is. And our mission, really, is to trace his journey through 6.5 years in the British Army during World War II. It covers quite a lot.
Yeah, it's not just one theater of war. It goes from, training in England to the dangers in France and then years working in the Middle East.
Exactly. We want to uncover that surprising mix of, well, routine, skill, humor, but also just sheer unpredictability that shaped his wartime experience. So let's unpack this incredible story.
It's a powerful reminder, I think, that the war for so many wasn't just about the front lines. It was this vast, sprawling experience, huge changes in where they were, what they were doing.
Absolutely. So Frederick Hanson, he was just 20 when he got called up, November 1939. And he thought, okay, 6 months service, that's it.
Yeah, the initial plan. But as his account shows, reality was quite different. 6.5 years in the end.
That initial call-up, it was part of this huge national effort, right? But his start, it sort of highlights maybe the lack of readiness at the very beginning.
Well, you read about his first week at Woolwich barracks, and it sounds almost, well, chaotic, doesn't it?
Probably. No uniforms, they're training in their own suits. Forget rifles, they're marching with poles. Can you picture it?
It paints such a vivid picture of improvisation, When you need to train literally hundreds of thousands of men really fast, you just make do. And those blisters from marching in their own shoes, oh, that must have been common.
Painful. And right away, he meets this character, Jackie Monahan, a professional boxer. This leads to a pretty amazing incident in the gym.
Yes, the bully sergeant.
Right. This big sergeant is punishing some poor young lad who's clearly exhausted. And Jackie steps in.
Asks for the gloves, Frederick says, and then basically cut the sergeant to pieces, just completely outboxed him.
But it's what Jackie says afterwards that really sticks. Quietly to the sergeant. When you're training lads, teach them to defend themselves and don't punish them as you have just done. Powerful stuff. And Frederick notes the sergeant took a week off and then actively avoided Jackie. So what does that moment tell us, do you think, about authority in the army structure?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because, the military runs on hierarchy, obviously, but here you see a different kind of authority, skill, confidence, maybe a sense of fairness, just challenging that formal rank. Jackie's reputation gave him, well, a sort of standing.
Allowed him to step in where maybe others wouldn't dare.
Exactly. It shows those complex social dynamics simmering just beneath the surface of army life.
So from that slightly chaotic start, Frederick gets transferred to a recovery section, their job. Retrieving broken down vehicles, equipment, really vital stuff.
Absolutely vital. They had these massive Scammell trucks, right? Capable of pulling tanks even.
Beasts, yeah. Recovery units were kind of the unsung heroes of logistics, keeping everything moving.
Essential. Keeping valuable kit from being lost, ensuring units stayed mobile. The Scammell was perfect for that heavy-duty work.
Then just a few months later, it's January 1940, and they're off to France with the 51st Highland Division.
Right into the thick of things early on.
And he gets this incredible shock. His own brother, Stan, who was in the Bolton Artillery, he's there too, in the same convoy.
Wow. Talk about a small world, even in a global war.
And Stan, by the way, he later became famous playing football for Bolton Wanderers, played in the '53 Cup final. Apparently his whole Bolton team joined up together.
That story itself, a whole football team enlisting, it's such a powerful snapshot of that national mobilization, isn't it? Peacetime life just carried straight into the army.
While they're working near the Belgian border, in a French village, there's this funny story about two Irish lads in their unit, a blacksmith and his striker.
What happened?
They just vanished from parade one morning. Later, they're found fast asleep in the village smithy, completely drunk.
The classic tale of finding some local refreshment.
Definitely refreshment. Frederick says they'd somehow lost teeth, found them by the road later. And the kicker, they'd been drinking Vin Blanc, this local white wine, and discovered if they drank water afterwards, they got drunk all over again.
Oh, dear.
Consequences.
It's just a lecture from the Sarah O, apparently. That was it. It's a small thing, but what does it add to the picture?
Well, it shows that even with, the massive pressures of war building, you still had these moments of just human silliness, maybe dark comedy. Access to local booze could lead to predictable results. These little anecdotes, they show the mundane reality alongside the danger.
So they're doing this critical repair job near Belgium. using the Scamel's anvil, actually, to fix a bent gun shaft from his brother Stan's unit.
Right, using the tools they had.
Suddenly, a sergeant cycles up, absolutely frantic. The Germans had broken through their lines. They were now stuck between the enemy and their own front line.
Wow. That's the abrupt shift, isn't it? From routine work to immediate mortal danger. The speed of the German advance in 1940 just caught so many support units off guard. They had to pack up incredibly fast. Abandon the gun, though. Crucially, they took the breech block first, making it useless.
Smart thinking under pressure.
Then they retreated about 10 miles, tried to find shelter, but the barns were full of chicken fleas, ended up sleeping outside, had to jump in the river the next morning just to get clean.
It just drives home the sheer physical discomfort, doesn't it? The grime, the pests, alongside the fear. It's far from the glorious image of war, but it was the reality for so many. Chicken fleas versus the Wehrmacht.
Well,
Grim.
but the really sobering part comes next. The Scamel crew goes back later to try and retrieve the gun. They find the village. It had been machine gunned by the Germans. 46 civilians were dead.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. It just shows the brutal reality for civilians caught in the middle.
And Frederick just quietly says, "So you imagine what the people thought about us," meaning them retreating? It speaks volumes, doesn't it? That complex burden on soldiers forced to pull back.
Definitely. The human cost, the ethical dimensions of retreat. It's powerful.
So after about 2 years working back in England, Frederick's war takes another massive turn. June 1942, he's transferred abroad, joins this huge convoy heading for the Middle East.
Right. A major strategic shift. By 42, North Africa, the whole Middle East theater, was absolutely crucial, required enormous logistical support, which is where units like his came in.
On the long voyage south, they arrange a football match for when the convoy hits Cape Town.
A bit of planned R&R.
And get this, his very first day there, Frederick spots a uniform patch from his brother Stan's unit. He asks the soldier, "Do you know Stan Hanson?" And the guy does.
No way. The sheer chance of that, half a world from Bolton, it just underlines the vast scale of movement, but also these tiny threads of connections somehow holding.
He actually managed to meet Stan ashore. They visited a local football ground together. And the planned match in Cape Town, it was going to be against Bolton Wanderers' Stan's team. They were somehow also there.
You're kidding. Did they play?
No, it got canceled because Frederick's ship had orders to leave that very night. Urgent sailing.
That's classic wartime logistics, isn't it? Operational demands just trump everything, even a once-in-a-lifetime football match against your brother's pro team. The need to get troops and kit to Egypt quickly was paramount. High speed up the Red Sea, dangerous waters too.
They finally arrive at Port Suez in Egypt. Get detailed off to different places. Frederick's first night. Guard duty at a pumping station. Vital infrastructure.
Yeah, guarding things like that, long desert train journeys. He mentions a 24-hour trip from Cairo to Haifa with a midnight meal stop out in the desert.
Surreal.
It highlights that often unseen logistical backbone. That was as much the war for many as the fighting.
He gets to this camp being built near Haifa, lays out his ground sheet, wakes up, lifts it, finds 2 scorpions underneath.
Welcome to the Middle East.
Apparently the place was teeming with scorpions, centipedes.
Another sharp reminder of the environmental shift, eh? Trading chicken fleas for scorpions requires constant vigilance.
While he's based near Haifa, he gets involved in training local Palestinian lads to use workshop machines.
Interesting. How did that go?
He specifically notes they were good, really quick learners.
That's a valuable insight. Shows that practical interaction between the military and local civilians, harnessing local skills, building some collaboration, it was crucial for these support units. A positive engagement.
And of course, while he's there, they formed a football team. A successful one, too. Apparently beat other units in the area.
Football, again, it's this constant thread, isn't it? So important for morale, for creating that sense of community, a bit of home in these completely alien environments.
Then his experience shifts again. Posted to Cairo, joins a sub workshop. This seems to be where he really settles into a more sustained, skilled role.
Right, moving into a more permanent workshop setting.
He's put in charge of a team of Egyptian workmen, and again, he notes their skill, particularly with metalwork.
Makes sense. Fixed workshops could leverage both military and local expertise. Being put in charge suggests Frederick's own competence was being recognized.
The workshop was about 10 men, plus NCOs. And he mentions a new unit designation comes in, REME, Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. And his title changes from private to craftsman.
Yes, REME formed in October 42. It was a really significant move to consolidate and professionalize the Army's technical support. And that title change, craftsman, was deliberate. It wasn't just semantics. It recognized the specialized skills these soldiers had, elevated their status, reflected the growing technical demands of warfare.
And Frederick's specific job for about 3 years was making splash pans for feeding boilers.
Okay. Sounds specific.
Specific and massive scale. He and his team produced an astonishing 33,000 of these splash pans over that time.
33,000. That single detail tells you everything about the sheer industrial scale of the support effort, doesn't it? It might not sound glamorous, making thousands of identical parts, but it was absolutely fundamental to keeping countless engines, kitchens, laundries, you name it, running. Mass production far behind the lines.
And the daily routine sounds relentless. 6 a.m. PT with the football officer.
Still fitting in the football.
Back by 7 a.m., shower, make the bed, breakfast, then straight into the workshop. 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 12-hour days.
Wow.
They even ate meals in sections so the work never stopped.
That highlights the intense pressure, the production quotas these workshops were under. Efficiency and output were everything. Staggering meal breaks. It shows the relentless pace needed to support the campaigns.
He also makes a point of saying they always respected the Egyptian workers' prayer times, never had any trouble.
That reinforces the earlier point, doesn't it? That suggests that, in his experience at least, mutual respect allowed for effective collaboration across cultures in the workplace.
Now, the football officer who ran their PT and team, he gets posted to headquarters down in Alexandria, or Alex as they called it.
Right, a major city, big port, different world from the workshop.
And later, 4 of Frederick's workshop team, including him, get invited to travel down to Alex for a match against the HQ team.
Football opening doors again.
After the match, they're allowed into Alex City Center. They go to a club. Now, Frederick and his mate Taffy, they had this unique skill.
Oh, yeah.
They used to jitterbug together in the canteen after work.
Just for fun.
Jitterbugging. In a military canteen in wartime Cairo. That's quite an image.
So at this club in Alex, the band starts playing In the Mood. And Frederick and Taffy just hit the dance floor. He says that they cleared the floor, throwing Taffy around, proper jitterbug moves.
I bet that caused a stir.
The club manager was so stunned, he offered to pay them to come back and do it again the next night.
Did they?
No, they had to refuse. Had to get back to their unit. But what does that little story tell us about finding joy?
It's just wonderful, isn't it? That irrepressible human need for fun, for expression, even under all that pressure, their unexpected talent, it just created this moment of pure shared enjoyment, a real bright spot against the tough work and the backdrop of war.
So fast forward a bit, 1945. After years away, Frederick finally gets a month's leave, goes home, gets married.
A big moment. Returns to Cairo, finds his old No. 4 workshop is closed. He gets moved to No. 3 workshop, but they put him back in charge of his former Egyptian team.
So continuity there. Recognize his leadership with that team.
And the production demand at No. 3 was even higher. 90 men producing 100 boilers a day, aiming for 500 Monday to Friday.
Incredible output. Shows the war effort was still demanding maximum production even in 45.
They had a cleanup day Saturday morning, but got extra pay for it, which he says the men really appreciated.
Practical incentive, smart management.
Another quick football story from this time. He gets hit in the eye during a game, can't see properly. Asks the officer, "Can I come off?"
And the response?
Classic stiff upper lip. "You have another eye, haven't you?"
Oh, lovely. Captures that just carry-on attitude perfectly, sometimes to an almost absurd degree, right? The team, the task comes first.
Okay, let's get to the story that is just, well, you have to hear it. The infamous Christmas goose story.
I'm intrigued already.
Back in No. 4 workshop, the sergeant major gets this bright idea. Buy a young goose. Feed it up all autumn for their Christmas dinner.
Right. Trying to make Christmas a bit special, maybe improve the rations.
Yeah.
Seems ambitious for a workshop.
He built a compound for it, fed it scraps.
Uh-huh.
Comes Christmas Eve morning, time for the main event. Sergeant Major asks, "Right, who's doing it?"
I don't know.
14 men in the workshop. Not one single man is willing to kill the goose they've effectively raised as a pet.
No way.
The sergeant major is furious. "What kind of soldiers are you?" They ask him if he'll do it. He refuses to.
That's amazing. Even soldiers hardened by war, they drew a line there. That shared squeamishness, maybe affection for the bird, it's incredibly human.
So that night, Christmas Eve, the sergeant major tells them all, "Get dressed, we're going into Cairo." He turns up carrying the goose, alive, wearing a little red dicky bow tie around its neck.
He did okay, this is escalating into pure absurdity. Taking the live goose with a bow tie into town, Brilliant.
They go to a club in Cairo, put the goose on the table, give it a drink.
They gave the goose a drink.
Yep. Then they put it on the dance floor. The whole unit starts doing a samba around the goose. The crowd joins in. Everyone's apparently howling with laughter.
I can picture it. It's that sheer capacity for finding humor, creating these moments of just wild, unforgettable release, isn't it? It's beyond just fun. It's surreal, communal theater cutting through the grim reality, peak unpredictability, just like Frederick said.
Predictably, the manager calls the military police, the Red Caps.
Oh, dear. Party's over.
When the Red Caps arrive, they take one look at Frederick's unit and apparently say, I might have known it would be you lot.
Uh-huh. Suggests they might have had a bit of a reputation then.
They get thrown out, naturally, have to call their driver to collect them. And the goose.
What happened to the goose?
They gave it, still alive, to their Egyptian cook for his family.
A fittingly quirky end to its adventure. What a story. Planning, reluctance, human nature, and just inspired silliness. Only in wartime, perhaps.
The morning after that escapade sounds equally chaotic. Christmas morning. Frederick describes waking up, thinking there was a woman beside him. It wasn't.
Oh.
Next thing he knows, he's being carried out to a wagon from the other workshop, No. 3, wearing only his vest. They drive him around Cairo like that while he's desperately trying to hide.
The humiliation. The revelry clearly didn't stop on Christmas Eve.
They end up back at the local football ground. Turns out the officers are having their own fun. They're all dressed up. The football officer is a pirate. Frederick's own officer is in goal, dressed as a clergyman, collar on backwards.
Fantastic. The officers letting their hair down, too, shows that need for release went right up the ranks. A collective, slightly mad Christmas blowout.
Eventually, a mate manages to find him a pair of shorts. They had their actual Christmas dinner later that afternoon back in No. 3 workshop.
Recovered, hopefully.
He later saw photos someone took of the morning's events. Said he was cringing, seeing himself trying to keep his vest down in the pictures. And then, on Army orders, all the photos were cut up and destroyed.
Now that's fascinating. The official suppression of the evidence shows the military wanting to maintain a certain image, control the record, even of relatively harmless hijinks. The fun happened, but the proof had to vanish.
He's shifting gears one last time. Frederick also talks about having special jobs back in No. 4 workshop. Highly skilled, often secret work. This really speaks to that craftsman role, doesn't it?
Absolutely. This isn't the mass production of splash pans. These are unique, demanding projects. Bespoke work for specialized needs. It highlights the advanced skills some soldiers brought or developed.
He mentions making 50 blanket boxes for tanks heading to Alamein. The tricky part. The drawings had no square corners, no 90-degree angles, all different curves and slopes. Took him ages to figure out how to make a pattern. Even the inspector struggled to understand it initially.
That's a great insight into the practical hurdles. Dealing with potentially complex or even flawed designs, needing real ingenuity to turn them into functional items. Blanket boxes might sound mundane, but for troops in tanks in the desert, proper stowage was vital.
Another job? Making 50 petrol tanks. 50 gallons each. He had his Egyptian team make the tanks themselves, but he personally soldered and leak-tested every single one to be absolutely sure.
Meticulous.
He even built himself a small brick kiln just to heat his soldering iron properly for the job.
That underscores the personal responsibility, the attention to detail needed for critical kit like fuel tanks. A leak could be disastrous. Building his own kiln just shows that dedication, that resourcefulness of a true craftsman.
And maybe the peak of this kind of work. A highly dangerous, top-secret job. Soldering a limpet mine for the Navy.
Wow, okay, that's serious.
Everyone else had to clear the workshop because of the explosives involved. His job was to waterproof the center section, sealing in the wires and the switch. He worked through the night, 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., with just an officer and one other helper.
Incredible pressure. Dangerous materials, complex task, working against the clock.
And for completing this specific job successfully, he was promoted to corporal.
That says it all, really. Entrusted with something that sensitive and hazardous, it demonstrates immense skill, but also trust and bravery. The promotion tied directly to that task highlights its exceptional importance and the value placed on his specific expertise.
He notes many of these special jobs were secret. His workmen would make parts from patterns he created, often having no idea what the final thing was for. But he says he enjoyed these jobs. Time didn't matter when he was doing them.
And that's key, isn't it? Despite the secrecy, maybe the pressure, These challenging, unique projects offered a different kind of satisfaction, like intrinsic reward from solving complex problems, contributing to something vital even if nobody else knew the details. It really underlines the crucial, often hidden role of skilled trades in modern warfare.
As his service finally neared its end, he tells a little story about his peacetime officer who was retiring. The officer got awarded a title, mentioned in dispatches.
Right, recognition for officers.
And the officer commented to Frederick that, unfortunately, enlisted men couldn't really get more than another stripe for their kind of work. But then, as he retired, the officer gifted Frederick his own personal box of tools.
Ah, that's a lovely gesture. A real mark of respect across the ranks, isn't it? Acknowledging skill, dedication, even if the official system had limits. The tools. A symbolic passing of the torch, craftsman to craftsman.
Frederick said he was deeply flattered, although, he adds, he sadly lost the tools later on.
Adds that touch of poignant reality, doesn't it? Not all legacies are perfectly preserved.
So Frederick Hanson was finally demobbed in March 1946, after 6.5 years. Far, far longer than the 6 months he signed up for.
An entire era of his young life.
And his final reflection in the account is simple, quite moving, actually. He says he had many memories, but he knew he was one of the lucky ones who came home.
That really grounds everything, doesn't it? After all the stories, the funny, the dangerous, the mundane, the skilled, the absurd, the ultimate perspective is survival and gratitude for it, a profound relief shared by so many who returned.
What Frederick Hanson's Football and Pharaohs really makes you think about, I reckon, is just how incredibly varied the experience of war could be. It wasn't one single story. It was this complex tapestry, wasn't it? Woven from, training mishaps, battlefield retreats, years of skilled work, miles from home, moments of just bizarre human comedy, and that quiet pride in doing crucial, sometimes secret jobs.
Exactly. It shows us that alongside the big campaigns, the war was lived day to day. In workshops, on trains, in dusty camps, even apparently doing the samba around a goose on a Cairo dance floor. It was shaped by individual skills, by chance meetings, by the bonds people formed, and just that sheer resilience needed to navigate a world turned upside down for so long.
So as you reflect on Frederick's journey, what aspects of this very personal account surprise you most about the reality of wartime service?
And maybe how does his experience as a craftsman doing everything from mass production to secret R&D, almost how does that challenge any ideas you might have had about the roles soldiers played far from the fighting?
That's it for this deep dive.